Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ron's Personal Fitness over here on the Gladiator Fitness Science channel. So, reason that we've created this channel is to give everybody an opportunity to learn science-based fitness. Now, I know, in today's day and age, science-based. We're not doing that. We're just showing you how modern research studies and the science of exercise physiology have come together, so to speak, to give us a better understanding of what is happening within the body as we're exercising. Um, and also touching on the topic of nutrition as well. Okay, so what we have is a situation where decades and decades of guys going to the gym and then girls going to the gym and kind of discovering what works best for them. We don't really have magazines anymore, so reading magazines was a thing of the past. When I was 12 years old, I would bring a Muscle and Fitness to school and read during lunch and things like that. So I was up on Iron Man magazine and, Muscle Media 2000 and those types of magazines back in the day. Flex magazine, the Weider publications of Flex and Muscle and Fitness. So, that's where we get our information from. And later on, when I started attending seminars to become certified as a trainer, you start to hear from the people who are writing those articles and discovering that, for example, Dr. Fred Hatfield brought a cover of a magazine. He was editor-in-chief of Flex magazine at the time. So he brought a cover and it said, build bigger biceps by doing this strange supination with your palm or whatever it was. And he used that as an example, even though it was his own article, to show that if they put on the cover of the magazine to build big biceps, curl. Any curl. Doesn't matter. As long as you're bringing the flexion of that bicep and shortening the muscle head of the bicep, it's going to be stimulated and it's going to grow if given enough resistance and so on and so forth. So that would sell exactly one issue of that magazine because he could never put that on there again to build big arms curl, to build big chest, dumbbell press or whatever. Okay, so you can't always rely on the old magazines because they needed a way to hook you to buy that magazine. And of course, every other page of the magazine was some supplement company's ad anyway, making you think that you could look like Mr. Olympia if you simply took their protein powder or that type of thing. Protein has its place. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you will not look like Ronnie Coleman or Jay Cutler or any of the modern day Mr. Olympias by simply taking protein powder. It's not the secret. Okay? So all those decades of reading those magazines and learning all the different ways to curl and all the different exercises and the anatomy and physiology of the muscles, you would have to distill down that information. Okay? So as the time has gone by, exercise scientists and those of us in the field of working with people in the trenches, so to speak, every day, have discovered that, the risk of injury might be a little too high for that exercise, especially with this older client. So I may, for lack of a better term, prescribe another exercise that is better suited for them so that we're not aggravating old injuries or creating new ones. And it may not be how you build the biggest muscle. For example, rowing, bent over rowing with a heavy weight has been shown to be pretty effective at building the back muscles. However, at the expense of the low back muscles, which are relatively weak compared to the other muscles, And when you go into a 90-degree bend like that, you're putting those low back muscles, the glute muscles, and so on at a higher state of stress. And although that stress will eventually make you stronger, in the process it might, injure you. So we have to be very, very careful when we're doing these things. Now, if I just picked up a magazine and I didn't know any better, or looked online, I didn't know any better, and it said the only way to work your back is to do lat pull downs and heavy bent over rows, or pull ups and heavy bent over rows, or some fashion of that. And I didn't know any better, and I jumped in there and said, heavy, well, I better work heavy. And boom, I herniated a disc or something more serious. Just look at former Mr. Olympia, Ronnie Coleman, who has undergone how many dozens of back surgeries from all his spinal compression and other problems that he received as a result of super heavy lifting, as a matter of fact. So, the last thing we want you to do, the first thing we want you to do is get the information. The last thing we want you to do is hurt yourself. So I'm not going to let that happen on this channel. So information that's being discerned will always have an explanation. There'll always be a logical reason behind it. We utilize books along the way that have been written by people who have taken the time to study the physics of exercise, for example, and knowing what angle works best for that muscle if we're trying to target that muscle, as far as isolation is concerned. Nutrition. We've come a long way from, a low-fat diet being something that you can lose weight on. A low-fat diet typically ends up being a high-carb diet. Nothing wrong with carbs, but there is a problem with high carbs, and being able to substitute simple carbs for fats, even though they're lower in calories, believe it or not, gram for gram, you're going to end up maybe with some insulin sensitivity issues and things like that. And we'll talk about that. I try to speak in layman's terms so that you'll understand it. I will use the proper nomenclature along the way so that you'll understand, why I'm saying what I'm saying, but I will make sure that it is, again, defined in such a way that you'll understand it. Now, personally, I've been doing lifting in my own exercise program since the age of 12, and I'm 55. So when you do the math, you see that's well over 43 years of experience doing it. I've been working with clients since, the late 80s, okay, with friends and family and other people that have come to me for knowledge. It was passed along to me by my father, and again, many books on the subject, not just magazines, but actual books. In 1998, I was certified myself with the International Sports Sciences Association. I've since got a sub-certification in nutrition. I've got a pre- and post-pregnancy sub-certification, and so on. So, there's information to be gathered there. I went to school for pre-med, so I have a lot of science in my background. I also have worked in the medical field as a surgical assistant, a clinical coordinator, and so on and so forth. So, enough blowing my own horn. But just so you know where we're coming from, I'm not just some meathead that walked in the gym one day and decided to see how big I could get or anything like that. I've always practiced a natural bodybuilding tendency, never having touched steroids. And over time, you can build a pretty good physique without any steroids. You're not going to become, again, the big shots on the Mr. Olympia stage, but certainly a physique that you can be very, very proud of at any age. And I wouldn't even put a restriction on that. There are bodybuilders in their 80s that they don't look like the 20-year-olds, don't get me wrong, but they look amazing for not only their age, but, 40 decades earlier. So, not 40, but 4 decades, 40 years younger than them. So there are 80-year-olds competing that look as good as the average 40-year-old. So that's pretty good. So let's not use that as an excuse. Let's not use I don't have time for an excuse. If you can tell me what every episode of your favorite show that's hours long, you're binging on the weekends or something. If you can tell me more than 2 shows that are your favorite shows, right there is enough time for you to exercise. And if you're exercising at home, it doesn't have to be in a gym environment. If you're exercising at home, it can be in front of your favorite show. And you could still, instead of sitting in your lazy boy recliner, you could be doing push-ups and sit-ups and squats and lunges and crunches and all sorts of other body weight exercises to keep your muscles stimulated and keep yourself in pretty good shape. As long as you're keeping your food in some sort of a calorie deficit, you'll lose weight. If your goal is to build muscle, you have to be in a surplus, but you have to add some resistance stimulation to the muscles to do that so that you don't get fat. So we're going to talk about all of these topics. They're hot topics. It just so happens to be the new year. It's just the way it fell for starting this new channel. And for those that are interested, we are offering online training now because, let's be honest, 8 a.m. only happens once a day, and I can only work with one client in person here in my studio. So I can work with thousands of people around the world who want to work out at 8 a.m. by sending them programs and diets and allowing them to report back to me how it's going. So we can do some online coaching, if you will. And for those that are interested, for the month of January, we're going to offer that first month at half price. So if you'll go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Ron's Personal Fitness, you'll see some details on there. Just direct message me and we'll get started. Okay, so as far as that's concerned, look on this channel Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'll try to give you some actual exercise here in the studio. We'll give you some nutrition advice. I'll give you all the numbers to crunch and how to get the best results possible. So until next time, don't waste another day. Don't say, oh my gosh, it's already Tuesday or already Wednesday or Thursday. I'll start Monday. No. Start today. Don't waste 5 days just waiting for the calendar to flip. All right? So until next time, I'm Ron from Ron's Personal Fitness. Take care, everybody.